What time is it? Do we know?
9, 10, 20.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Junkyard Digs. Tonight I'm joined by my buddy Phoenix from Phoenix's Powder Coating here in town. And of course, the LeMans, which is what we're going to be working on. We have, today's the 6th?
Today is the 7th.
We have 10 days to get this car completely done and to a car show in Minnesota. And we are going to be heading the show for QA1 and their Autocross. QA1 has sent the entirety of the rest of the suspension, so this thing will be fully a QA1 equipped car. And we're gonna be taking it up to the Autocross and ripping around and doing 3 days of car show in Minnesota. Which means it needs to be both finished and reliable for that to happen, which is a very big task for a few reasons. Reason number one, we still need a roll cage.
Yep.
Because the frame's a little soft in the rear, so we're gonna be stiffening that with a roll cage. And it's therefore safer. We don't have any seat belts, there's no interior. The entire suspension for the whole car needs redone. And my favorite one, the engine needs redone. Last time we were ripping this thing around in circles down off the line in Des Moines. The bearings got a little accelerated wear. I don't know how, that's strange. So we need to pull the engine out of this car, do a bearing roll, see if there's any other damage, put it all back together, and finish it in 10 days. All the while doing like 3 other revivals in there. I'm gonna die, this is gonna be terrible. Let's get started. All right, let's see the damage. Oh, it looks fine, close the hood.
Yep, we're good.
On top of being a little over-accelerated on the wear, it also got hot. I've never seen a temp gauge do a lap before, but I saw it that night. And I think that's because when we redid a gasket somewhere, or we put the intake on, I forgot to, I forgot to fill the radiator the rest of the way for like half the night.
I've
so
never
she got
seen
nice
an
and warm.
aluminum radiator look brown on the inside.
Yeah, dude, we did some damage that night, but oh my Atlanta. Hey, we had a ton of fun though. And the car performed excellent, and it was a huge hit. It was on 1320, it was great, it was worth it. So, alright, let's dig into it. Alright guys, so here's the deal. I'm currently sitting in post looking at the amount of footage we have from this build, and it's over 5.5 hours of raw, unedited footage. Which means by the time we get to the good stuff, where we're ripping this car on the track up in Minnesota, you guys are going to be bored out of your minds. So here's what I'm going to do. We're going to cut through this in a narrated montage and stop for all the good tech tips from Wyatt, Phoenix, and anyone else that was at the shop this weekend. Let's start it off with a compression test to make sure our motor is still healthy. Alright, compression test is done, and we have 150 psi with the throttle wide open across the entire motor. So our motor has survived. At this point, we're going to start ripping shit off and see if we can get this thing on the ground in about an hour and a half. Half hour. Yeah, 12 minutes. About an hour later, Phoenix and I had the motor sitting on the ground, and I was able to come in the next morning and open it up to see exactly where our bottom end noise was coming from. So you've probably heard me mention rod knock a bunch in the past, and in this video specifically, for obvious reasons, but we've never really had a chance to show it because I don't often have motors apart on the show. This is what causes rod knock right here. As you see, I can move this rod on the crank. I shouldn't be able to do that. It should be rock solid. But since this one got so worn out, and I can move it, when he's going up and down in the bore, he's getting slapped from top to bottom, as that crank switches directions. He's going dink, 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 dink. Taking the rod cap off, we unfortunately learned that this motor had spun a bearing, and in turn ruined our crankshaft by putting it about 60 thousandths under. To fix this, I need about $500 and 3 weeks to have the crankshaft welded, straightened, and re-ground. Unfortunately, we don't have that kind of time, so I went on the search for another 455 Buick, which actually proved to be quite difficult. The sun has gone down, which means we pick up wrenches. I was able to locate a spare motor about 2 hours away, went and picked it up, saw that the cylinders were full of water, but decided to take it home anyway on the gamble that the crankshaft alone was still good. We set to work on tearing the motor down, and despite all the water in the cylinders, we were pleased to find it was still a buildable backup engine for the car. An added bonus we found was that this engine was actually machined exactly as our previous motor, which meant we could drop the crank straight in. It also meant we, of course, had a spare 462 block sitting around, which is just a badass set of numbers. Yes, you can't have that. I need that one rod.
I'm taking this. This is my trophy.
Feeling good about our discovery, we decided to call it an early night around 11:30 and got some rest to prepare for the entire crew I had hired for the weekend. So today is the start of the big weekend of hopefully wrapping this car up. Phoenix is going to be working on our roll cage. He's done a few of these, definitely more than I have. Dad is pulling the crank out of the new old motor. I am pulling the piston out of the old new motor. Kodo's running around eating everything. There's a lot going on, so we're gonna try to capture everything we can.
You're a busy day.
Yeah, just give me a shit show. With my motivational speech out of the way, I set to work on pulling the bad connecting rod out of the old new motor, and Mook and Dad pulled the crankshaft out of the new old motor.
Take it away. Yay! Sniff. Oh god, now it's on my shirt. Oh no!
It's going down his shirt.
This was a nice shirt.
I'm sorry, Jess.
With all our bearing caps out of the way, we were able to see that our gamble had paid off, and we did indeed have a perfect crankshaft. So what we got going on here is, I don't know if I've explained this very well. I can't remember because it was like a week ago that I pulled this motor. It's just been a crazy hectic week. But QA1 has set the remainder of the suspension of this car to be a full, like, stage 1 QA1 car. Our goal is to take this car around the Autocross with the 31s and make people that have cars that are supposed to be good at this sad, because that's always hilarious every time. The other reason that we need to put a whole new suspension under, especially the front end of this car, is because at first when we put this all together with our big Chevelle springs, everything was happy. Those springs started to break in and like set to their regular ride height as they started to like wear in, and we started ripping the fenders off the car with the tires digging into everything. You can see right here there's a bit of damage to this tire actually where it's cut from turns. So the solution, make the car an inch and a half taller up front and everything clears without us having to just obliterate the fenders. We will now have a LeMans that is like 2.5 inches shorter than an F100. I opened up our first QA1 box and was absolutely struck by the quality of the component I held in my hand. So much so I gave it the rigorous wiggle test. I can shake it and it doesn't wiggle. That must mean it's great. To cap off our full weekend team, Wyatt showed up to help me with the engine and do a traditional diesel dance to bless the bottom end with extra strength.
So Kevin may or may not have reached out to me. He's got this engine in a million pieces. He's obviously doing roll cage front suspension work to this LeMans. He reached out and said, hey, I'm doing this weekend. If you got some free time, come give me a hand. I'm like, sure, why not? I'm kind of bored and I like engines. I figured I'd come up here and give him a hand with this 455 Buick. And right now we're going to be pulling the head off of this side because we're going to be putting a cam in it, and then we're just going to kind of clean everything up and re-gasket it. Seeing how you spun a rod bearing, it's nice to just clean them up and get all the metal out of it. Without further ado, I'm going to see if I can slosh any coolant or water all over my feet. Give it! Oh my! Oh!
While Wyatt and I were busy on the motor and suspension, Phoenix was making good progress on the roll cage.
We got all the measurements done on the inside of the car for the hoop. I got a sample tube in here to try out the Rogue Fabrication bender for the first time. I watched some videos on YouTube on the Rogue Fabrication channel. One thing I noticed about this bender that would be really cool is the kickers usually come down and have to kick in a little bit. And usually you have to notch the tubing to get it to kick in, versus this tuber, you can actually put the second clamp on and bend it instead of notching it. So it should go together pretty easy compared to other roll cages that I've done in the past. So let's go ahead and get this bent.
Having used this machine in the past, I know the first time you use it is a little intense and a little nerve-wracking. So Mook came up with the idea to take advantage of this situation and scare the shit out of Phoenix.
Fuck, I thought at first,
That was great.
it took me, like, I looked right at it, I'm like, what did I just break?
Back on the big block, Wyatt was pulling her camshaft out to prepare for the new one.
Now, in typical GM engine fashion, are we going to have Schrodinger's cam bearings? If you look at them, they're neither, or if you don't look at them, they're neither good nor bad. Yeah.
Did I hear a mention of Schrodinger's cams?
Schrodinger's cam bearings?
Schrodinger, okay. We're on the same page.
Ooh, I'm not gonna.
They ain't happy.
I think it's more so whoever assembled it didn't know what they were doing and beat the shit out of them.
I meant the missing material.
Oh, you looked. It's Schrodinger's hand bearings, man.
I didn't see anything.
Thankfully, a knock at the door helped me forget what I had just seen and reestablish the Schrodinger's aspect of our cam bearings. Or at least what was left of them. Okay, so this man right here is our savior right now. Because he came into work on a Saturday and pressed out a wrist pin and switched our piston for us, which means we can get this motor together today. Thought that it was going to be like Tuesday. So thank you very much, Gene.
Oh, no worries.
Midwest Cylinder Head here in Nevada. If you guys are in the area and you need machine work done, there is no other option.
And I can confirm from other witness accounts, they do amazing work. I mean, everyone in our neck of the woods down in southwest Iowa talks about these guys, and these are like pretty much north central, kind of northeast Iowa, so they're traveling 3 to 4 hours just to get work done. There's a lot of guys that come up to him.
It's Wyatt saying it. That means it's like gospel. Yeah. Meanwhile, behind the car, Phoenix was busy making some test bends with the Rogue Fab bender.
Basically, I pre-bent this tube to just see if we can fit the inside of the car good. Well, that is definitely not right.
On the driver's side, my dad and Mook were working on some luxury items and installing a door latch on the car.
We put the original striker plate in. Get a little alignment on the striker. Let's try it. Ready? There, you got a door.
Back at the front of the car, Wyatt was getting hungry.
Potatoed crankshaft is potatoed. We're gonna put hash brown crankshaft in. This rod's potatoed. That bearing's potatoed.
Man, with all the potatoes around here, it's a shame we're not farmers.
We're Irish.
Another monumental moment. I've opened the other box from QA1.
You opened the first one like 40 minutes ago.
Yeah. I'm trying to manage everyone and keep everything run smooth. It's a lot more work than trying to do suspension. Anyway, I want to show you guys something. This is the significance of QA1's production and their joints and their bearings. Usually these are like all, you actually can't turn these by hand. So you get like a 2-foot bar and twist these a little bit. No friction there. And this here is one of the QA1 Ultimate ball joints. These are not broken, they're not loose, they're actually that easy to move, which makes steering your car a dream. Like this car is one finger to turn it. While Coda wandered around the shop eating cardboard, we decided it would be a good time to give you guys a lesson on bottom end bearings since we don't usually see them on this channel.
Seeing how I got the crank out, I'm able to inspect all the rod bearings that I'm seeing. Now for an engine that's had a lot of metal go through it from potatoing a rod bearing on it, it doesn't look terrible, but for all intents and purposes of what we're doing, it'll be fine. Don't know if you guys will be able to make it out the best. I'm gonna kind of wipe that off.
Oh yeah, you can see.
Perfect, but you see that little coppery material, and then you've got a lighter material, and then an even darker material. These are a coated bearing. They've got 3 different materials on them. One thing I want you guys to note on these, especially on the uppers, but you compare the upper to the lower, the upper looks way more wore out, which is going to be common. You're going to have all your cylinder pressure from timing, power strokes, everything of that nature. And when you pull an engine apart and if your upper bearing just falls out, it's because you've got too much initial timing on it or timing advance. You're beating the crap out of it, and you're actually beating the center in here narrower, so it's closing. Yep, because you should not be able to do this.
They should stick.
They should stick.
This is a drastic example.
This is an extremely drastic example.
But it makes it easy to visualize.
Yep, because it'll, like I said, it'll smash the center there, pull the outsides in, and then you're losing the mechanical grip or the friction grip, and then it'll just start spinning away from that. You're actually going to shear that little stop tab off. All that tab on your rods and caps is there to do is to locate your bearing. It's not to hold it. You are dealing with friction to hold it. These are called a friction bearing. So I don't know if you guys can see it. If you look in here, these rod bearings are offset. See how this one's farther this way and this one is farther this way? They favor the center because on the crankshaft, if you look on the sides of this crank, I don't know if you'll be able to see it in the camera, it's got a raised area that has a slight roll to it. They call that the fillet. So you want your bearing to stay away from the fillet, and if you put your bearings in backwards, you can actually write them in on the fillet, and you'll burn that bearing up and actually cause the bearing to either lock up on the crank, or you'll spin the bearing immediately after assembly. So that's just one of those things when you're putting an engine together to pay attention to. Make sure you don't have your bearings backwards, because if you do that, you're gonna be in for a world of hurt, and you'll be right back in doing it again.
With his apparent superior brain power, Phoenix had quickly figured out the Rogue Fab tubing bender, and in a matter of a couple hours, already had a hoop bent up and tacked in place in the car.
Oh, that's plenty good. I'm done for the day.
In no time at all, the shop became an absolute disaster while everyone set to work on their individual tasks, and we all started turning wrenches as fast as we could to try to get this thing done. Just had it.
Tell you guys, there's one thing you can always do if you have an engine that spins a rod bearing, blows up, or you're going through and doing major engine work to it. I see this a lot in my line of work. Always, always, always take your oil pumps apart if you can, especially, and replace them honestly if you can. But some of them realistically are rebuildable or are savable. This one I'm going to go in here. I'm going to pull the pressure relief spring out, and there's a little valve that'll sit down in there that you want to try removing. She's not going to come out right now on film, but you got to take these apart and clean them, because there's a lot of passages and different little orifices that you can get metal shavings stuck in. So in order to save your fresh engine, don't put your old oil pump back on unless you clean it, or if you have the opportunity to buy a new oil pump, do that. 30 to 40 bucks is cheaper than a $3,500 short block or long block.
At this point, we set the cameras down to get some more progress done on the car and decided to resume the next morning. Somewhere around here, I relearned the lesson I learned all too many times in the past, and that rushing a project is never a great idea. For instance, with this motor, since we are so short on time, we were able to source neither a new camshaft in time, nor new bottom end bearings. So we actually ended up putting this motor back together with the old camshaft and the best sets of bearings we could find between the two motors.
Yeah, this engine is like an exhibition of everything you're not supposed to do.
Don't do this, don't put it in one of those, and then don't do what we're probably gonna do with that, with this in it, in like 5 days.
So I'm gonna ask you guys in the comments, just kind of give you guys just a quick lowdown. Everything in this engine less gaskets is reused. Put in the comments how long do you think it's gonna last.
That's a great idea.
Just like literally, I wanna see how long it's gonna last. As a technician, realistically, I think you're gonna make it half a run. But as a car guy, this thing's been put together with hate, discontent, and no care in the world. It'll last longer than anything you've built with the intent to last. It's one of the two extremes. It's either gonna last never or last forever.
This is like all those bullshit TV shows, but it's for real.
But Aaron Kaufman was cool. Richard Rawlings is not. He never wrote me back when I was in high school. Dick.
While I buttoned up the remainder of the suspension work, Wyatt continued to kick ass on the motor and had everything back together in no time at all. The only big ticket item left at this point was the rest of the roll cage. By now, Phoenix was pretty much a pro on that bending machine and really appreciated the fact that you could take it out of the machine, check a bend, and then resume it later on.
So I've been messing with this Rogue fabrication bender for 2 days now. I think I finally got it figured out. We got the hoop bar done. We're working on the rear kickers now. I just bent this one up and pulled it back out, kind of did a little test fit. What's really nice about it is it has the blocks on here, so you can always guarantee that the bend's going to be exactly where you were previously. Unlike my Pro Tools bender, you will never guarantee you line up the marks 100% correct, versus this one, put the block in there, slide the pin, and you're always guaranteed to have the bend in the right spot again.
Okay, so another comparison that you may have drawn by now.
Yep.
How much room do you need in your shop to bend that pipe you just bent?
So mine bends horizontal, so you need a big open area.
Yeah.
Right here I'm working with 4 feet wide, 5 feet wide.
Yep.
Because it bends the tube vertical.
And since this machine holds all of the torque within its own chassis right here, you can roll it outside and do it.
It's on a roll, like I don't need to be clamping this down to anything. Like
It doesn't need to be bolted to the floor.
That's very nice.
Yeah, these guys down at Rogue Fab make some excellent stuff. This is their M600 bender, just a nice base model. Check them out, roguefab.com. And while you're on the internet, get yourself some suspension, QA1. And since we're looking at the wall, if you need a rear axle, you can go to Quick Performance. Get your lifts from Ben Pack and your beer from Bush and Tang from Tang Tools. At this point, it was Sunday evening and all of our hired help had to go home. Once again, a huge thanks to those guys for helping that weekend, because at this point, we were right on schedule to drop the motor in, hook everything up, throw a bunch of zinc in the motor, prime our oiling system, and do our engine break-in. Engine break-ins always scare the hell out of me, and this one was no exception, especially seeing that the engine was made entirely of used parts. Regardless, the LeMans passed the 25 minutes of RPM with flying colors and came out the other side with perfect pressure and great temperatures. Hell yeah! I immediately dropped my break-in oil, did a quick inspection for metal, and once everything looked good, we were able to button up the engine bay, finish up the roll cage, and finally get some seatbelts in the car. Simulated crash dummies in position. Let's try a front end collision.
We're not going anywhere.
After 9 long hard days, we were finally able to present to the world the Gambler LeMans Mark I. Before we made tracks for QA1, there was one more thing we had to do. We needed to get the car aligned. How bad is it? Looks like we got some work to do on this thing.
Yeah.
Alrighty, so those guys got this sucker dialed in. She is on rails. Probably do a little adjustments on those valves on the shocks. I can just turn a dial to completely change how the car handles. But yeah, I'm gonna do some trim and some cleaning, and then throw this sucker on the trailer, and we'll see you guys in Minnesota. Alright, we have made it to the QA1 Center. This is where everything is developed, tested, installed, made, everything. QA1's facility was absolutely incredible, and it was so cool to meet both the machines and people building the parts that I had installed on our car. Everything QA1 does is made right here in America by real people with real jobs, and they make some real damn good suspension components. After the open house, we hopped into LeMans and took it for its first real drive all the way from QA1's facilities in Lakeville to the Minnesota State Fairgrounds. After meeting a ton of fans up by the QA1 booth, we made our way down to the Autocross track to do exactly what we came here to do, put on a show. We were told we would get 3 exhibition runs this weekend, each being 2 laps. The first lap we were to put down our best lap time, and the second lap, put down whatever was left on the back tires.
41.32 for the Mustang. Kevin from Junkyard Digs driving this 68 LeMans has never done anything like this. He said he's never gone drag racing, no autocrossing, no road racing, just general shenanigans.
It was true. Surprisingly, this was actually the first time I've ever been on any form of a racetrack with a car. This would also be the first time the LeMans has ever seen a hard left or right pitch in a turn. I was fully anticipating the front tires to rip the fenders clear off the car, so I told myself I would take it easy on the first lap. Apparently my right foot, however, had much different plans.
Suspension could be tightened up. He is running all QA1 suspension. 48.35.
All things considered, those being that I've never done this in the car and that it has 31-inch tires meant for off-road, I was totally okay with my first lap ever being only 10 seconds slower than purpose-built autocross cars. Either way, our first lap was over, so it was time to show this crowd exactly what the LeMans was made of. think we really did her in on that one.
Yeah.
That was fun though, eh?
So, yeah.
Yeah.
This is Kevin too.
This is Kevin too. This is Mook's brother.
Junkyard rat.
Junkyard rat.
I don't know, Kevin. I think you can beat him.
Hey, we put down what, a 40, what'd you say?
46.51.
That's good, actually.
3781 for the Evo.
Our coverage of this event is not the best, but that's perfectly okay for my standards because there's so many of you guys recognizing us that we have had so much fun talking to you guys that we have no time to really film anything, which is good. So thank you guys very much for everyone that came up here. This is an awesome show. Cannot wait to do it next year. For now, we're headed back to the booth to meet some more people.
Yeah.
Oh, and Angus is here. Come Sunday afternoon and we were out of stickers, tires, and energy. We had an absolute blast at the Street Machine Summer Nationals and urge you guys, if you're in the area, come check us out next year at the QA1 booth, because we'll be back and we'll be burning off another set of tires. So yeah, that is a wrap. The Le Mans survived the whole weekend. Huge thank you to QA1 for having us invited out for this event. It was an absolute blast. We destroyed a set of tires, and we cannot wait to come back and do it again next year. So, if you guys are in the area, next July, coming out to the Street Machine Summer Nationals, hang out, say hi, get to see the car, get to see us rip some tires off of it, all this fun stuff.
It's at the Minnesota State Fairgrounds.
Oh yeah, I should probably mention that
Yeah.
part. If you guys are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment below. We'll see you guys right here next week for another great episode. Peace.
Goodbye.